Welcome back here to KC Grid Talk. Jake Drew is going to join us here right after this quick little highlight reel.
U.S. win on our KC National Tour. Could it be today? Green flag in the air. 48 drivers from KA Senior for the Wisconsin Grand Prix are underway up to the hill. Front right now, Caden McQueen, your leader, to Massimino as they go side by side for third. Lemke through, Drew through, Kaminsky through. Things because he said it at yesterday's afternoon presser that this one is going to be a dogfight. The Briggs and Stratton-based organization with over 250 drivers on the list there as the action continues in less than 6 days. But the action right now is hot, and we've got another new leader. Jake Drew and Keegan Kaminsky, GFC and Formula Works to the top. We've touched on Drew, but Keegan Kaminsky is the outlier of your top five. And this year, this has been a breakout year already with a lot of speed, a lot of pace, and now he's taking it to the lead.
Yourself, and then you find areas within yourself that you're not as good as you could be, and you improve.
Oh! Jake Drew through the dirt.
Is about to let McQueen go because Clement Mello has got a nose cone problem. That's easy to see, and we've got a new leader. Has come over to watch the karting when their circuit isn't being used. This is the reason. This is because it is so close, so competitive. And what's this now, Xander? We got another chopping and changing of positions. You can't take your eyes off it for a split second.
Brandon Lemke, the hometown kid. Jake Drew, the California native for GFC, trying to make a big-time play here in Turn 2A. He'll go back to the lead, and now Paulie Massimino and the rest of the pack inch ever closer. But Jake Drew, he was so ecstatic this year to have another opportunity to get to drive more than once or twice with the GFC squad. And while maybe not every event has gone as perfect a plan as they would have liked out of the final turn, Jake Drew wins the Wisconsin Grand Prix.
Well, with that, we got to see Jake Drew, how he got it done. Let's add the man himself. Jake, welcome on, bud. You're muted, by the way.
Hey, Jake, you're muted.
I know. I was copying you. I've been watching for a while, all right? Trying to get it all figured out. But no, thank you guys for having me on here. Super excited. Ready to talk to you guys for a little while.
How are you feeling, man? Has it sunk in yet? Honestly, I was talking to Alex a little bit. I was up on top of the hill this weekend working a camera, but I got chills. You know, I've known you for quite some time. These guys have known you for quite some time. It was a really cool moment, you know, watching from a fan side of things. Has it sunk in yet? You know, you're a national race winner here this year.
Yeah, it's definitely started to sink in, and it feels really good. And today we were kind of back to normal a little bit, back at the shop, prepping for a Tri-C event this weekend and making sure we had everything squared away. But no, it was really good to see Tony again. I know we were apart for a long time, a whole day, I think it was. So I spent a lot of time with those guys now, but definitely coming home to see family and enjoying it, letting it sink in, and answering all the texts and messages has been really cool. And for sure, it's been a long time since I got to have that feeling of winning something big like that. And kind of just going through the whole last lap, looking back, knowing it was clear and everything, and not having to defend, but just knowing that, in a couple seconds I was going to be winning something big again. And it felt really good, and definitely helps. I don't know. You put in so much hard work with the team and everybody, and so many coaching days with drivers, and so many long, hot weekends all across the country here and there. And it makes it all feel really good when it's all coming together and everybody's hard efforts work out, and you get to bring home good results. And icing on the cake was a 1-2 with Keegan and I. That was really special for him and I. We've grown really close over the last few years, so just really happy where everything's at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, at this point, like you mentioned, a lot of years working with GFC, a lot of years working with guys like Keegan. I mean, you had a car career going in NASCAR for a few years, obviously with the ARCA West stuff, ultimately moving into trucks in 2023. I mean, I just want to know, starting the year, I guess, like 2020 or so, how's the last 5 years looked like for you, both on the car side and then also on the karting side?
Yeah, it's been a lot of moving around for sure. 2020 was when I first started to kind of dip my toes into the car scene and whatnot, and all that kind of stemmed from my karting as well. I had met the Brincati family who helped me out with my intro to late model stuff and Arca West and whatnot, and part of that was help from Tony Siragusa as well, and running with Formula Works, and just being able to connect with so many great people and networking throughout the paddock was really what kind of kickstarted all that. And um, obviously from there, it was a quick progression into the ARCA stuff beginning in 2021. So I went from a 350 pound go-kart to a 3,000 pound stock car, and just less than a year really when we started to test and everything. So and then that turned into a full-time job for 2 years. So a lot of hard work there, and I take a lot of pride in that too. Pretty much, every step of my career, even from being a young kid working in the garage with my dad to, I spent some time working with Tony before in his shop on the karting side, and then working full time in the ARCA shop. I would go visit the truck shops and the TA2 shops while I was back in Mooresville. I've always been pretty hands-on with everything, so that was really special. And then um, we kind of had a good year in 2022 where we won the championship, and we knew pretty early on that Bob was going to be shutting down the team, and um, I definitely was excited where I was with that and in my career, and with trying to push as hard as I could to get as far as I could. And um, was very thankful for good friends of mine, Nathan Martin, to open up his doors in Mooresville and allowed me to come live with him. And that made a big change in my career and allowed me to have the opportunity to move back into the hub of motorsports for NASCAR in Mooresville, and move back there and really take as good as a shot as I could and really spend some time back there. And um, it was a big change for sure. It all happened really fast, and it took a lot of sacrifice, and um, I was just really happy with it all. But um, still was dabbling in karting here and there. Tony always had a door open for me, always was welcoming to me if I wanted to work, mechanic, coach, drive, whatever it was. He was always wanting to help me out if any way I could, any way he could. And we always stayed super connected, and I'm super thankful for all that. And then we all know the car scene is hard, and it takes a lot of financial backing and a lot of support from on all sides. And I just was struggling to kind of find those situations. And I'm starting to get a little bit older, we could say, for motorsports, as I turned 25 this year, and kind of felt like I needed to maybe take a step back and try to put some money away, put some money back in my pocket. And I had a lot of great people supporting me through my years car driving, but kind of wanted to be a little bit more independent. And Tony and Gary and GFC Formula Works, everybody had a great opportunity for me to come do some of the coaching side, and as well still feed my competitive side that I wanted to keep racing. And so this year's been definitely a busy year, busier than my last few, even with the car stuff. But just having a lot of fun doing the coaching stuff and kind of getting back in the swing of karting things. I felt like I was probably a little rusty at the beginning of the year, but now really starting to feel like my true self where I was at, 4 or 5 years ago when I kind of took a step away.
What continues to fuel that competitive side?
Oh, I just don't think it's gonna go away. I mean, I started driving a go-kart when I was 5, and so I mean, I didn't really start racing then, but I'm at year 19, 20 of driving, and it doesn't go away. Every day I wake up, it's the first thing I got to think about is driving something or trying to win something. And it's just something that's not going to go away. And um, definitely enjoy being in close proximity and working with the kids and drivers that I work with while I'm even racing as well, and kind of showing that maybe some of the stuff I talk about is true. And I think karting is just it's such a competitive sport, obviously, and it's much more attainable than driving a race car sometimes. So it's a way I get to feed that edge, and just keep pushing at it.
Yeah, and real quickly, I wanted to talk about the Formula Works program and what you've been able to do over the last few years. I mean, you have a long-standing relationship with Tony, but you know, we talked about Keegan and him finishing second. You've done a lot of work with some of the other guys like Nico Sarfati, guys like Johnny Stamps as well, kind of thinking on the more regional level. I mean, how special has it been for you to see that program evolve from kind of when you maybe didn't fully leave karting, but you kind of took a little bit of a step back to now back in full swing in 2025, now seeing the work and the success that that program has had?
Yeah, it means a ton. I mean, I feel like I felt like coming in, I hadn't done a lot of coaching the last few years. I mean, only with, select few kids like Keegan and whatnot, and I worked with those guys, but I never really worked on like a real broad scale of drivers. And um, even during the off season, I'd already spent a lot of time in California, and we spent a lot of days at at Adams or K1, learning these new tracks and doing a lot of drill days where we have, 6, 8, 10 drivers where we're working on all kinds of things, not just going out there and trying to go as fast as we can, but definitely working on the racecraft side of things. And then, I do a handful of races, a pro kart race here or whatnot, and you see all the results just start to flood in, especially early on in the year, and that really felt special. And yeah, it feels good to kind of get a thanks here and there, or feel that I'm somewhat making a difference. I don't know if I always am for sure or not, but when the results kind of stick out in front of you, it's really cool. And I think it all comes from the preparation too in the shop. Like I said, I take a lot of pride in that, and I work really hard there to make sure everything's prepared and ready, and um, that we don't have any issues when we go to the track. And but I gotta admit though, it definitely makes it hard. Like um, especially closer to home. When we're racing, when we have 6, 7 guys under the tent, and you're out there racing with them, and you kind of look around, and it's your teammate, but it's also somebody that you've been coaching the last few months. So one, it feels good that they're there, and then two, it makes it a little bit difficult to race with them too because you don't want anything to go wrong.
How competitive are you guys though under the tent with each
It
other?
gets it gets pretty competitive. I mean, we push each other pretty hard. Um, we don't really have a lot of conversations of like specifically working together. I mean, there's time and a place where maybe it's go time and we need to just kind of sit and hang out and work with each other for a second. But once we're up in the front, it definitely gets pretty tricky, some of the moves we try to make. And but we all try not to take it too personally. We all know that we're there to win. It's not, there's no team points. So we all just doing the best we can. And I mean, maybe we try to keep it to a level where, like I said, we don't make any mistakes or take each other out. But at the end of the day, it's we all work together as a team. We do the best we can, and if it comes down to the three of us, it's all fair and game, and it's going to be racing at the end of the day. Whatever happens, happens.
Talk a little bit about how this weekend came to be, because I look back at last year whenever we came to Wisconsin here for USPKS. Tony shows up with a Formula Works team. Jesus was here. I'm not sure who what other drivers were here racing with Tony that weekend, but you were around actually on the big track at Road America racing TA2. You got the pole position there, set the track record. But what kind of brings you guys to do these one-offs, here and there, throughout the year?
I think some of it is development with some of our drivers. Last year, we took a big emphasis, or Tony took a big emphasis on taking some of his guys to new tracks that they hadn't been before, and just really pushing them to learn and push their skills to understand a new track and come to grips with it and do the best they can. And um, obviously, we didn't have a ton of guys come with us this time, but Keegan had taken some time there before, and as a second year senior, we're still pushing him and myself as well, but just pushing ourselves to be the best we can and learn as fast as we can. And kind of take ourselves out of our comfort zone a little bit and see what we can do. So, it was good to show the product off like that, but also use some of Keegan's experiences and kind of apply that and maybe try to do a little bit better than the time before. And I know Tony's got a couple tracks that he picks out when we're going over schedules in the beginning of the year that he favors and wants to go back. And it's got to be fun too. It's not always about the super competitive side of things. Sometimes it's just place that we like being or an area we want to be in, and we want to go back and have a good time. And while we're there, we're racing go-karts, and hopefully we do well.
Yeah, talk a little bit about your relationship with Tony as well, because I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but seeing the reaction from the two of y'all at the end of the weekend, right? Like this picture, you sent me the whole folder that you got at the end of the weekend, but this picture to me stuck out, right? Talk a little bit about you and Tony throughout the years and what it's now been like having him as your boss now, right? Who you answer to day.
Yeah, I mean that's Uncle Tony for everybody, but he's been such a big help in my career, and everybody under the tent. He's always just wanting to help and do the best he can for everybody, and whether it's providing opportunity, a work, a cart, or whatever, every step of the way, I feel like you can always go to Tony and ask him for advice or ask him about something, and he's going to have something good to tell you. And, it's really special working with him. I've spent some time with him. I've gone away. I've come back, probably 2 or 3 times now just through different situations. And he's always got his arms open to everybody. And then, especially this year. Just I spend so much time with him, and when it's in the shop, the travel days, um, staying together at the races and whatnot, where you have lots of conversations on kind of on the work side of things, and then when I'm driving on the competition side of things. So there's tons and tons of conversations that we're always having, and he's probably seen my mood swings through the X30 stuff and whatnot, where I feel still trying to figure some things out there, but obviously have a little bit more confidence going into it now. But he's seen, you know, it's hard to not have a little bit of a self-doubt too sometimes. I took a few years off, and maybe that's kind of where I'm lacking a little bit. But like I said, I kind of feel like I'm really getting back to my true self, and really looking forward to Indiana. So, um, there was a couple like key moments and quotes throughout the weekend where, I kind of was not calling my shot, but just trying to speak things into existence and be positive about it. And, setting for the first time, I felt like I set some goals this weekend, and, I was able to click those off. So it was almost just like a fairy tale situation. We get up in the hotel room, like, all right, we're gonna do this today. We're gonna win one of these things. And we're like, okay, like we're pumped, we're ready. And then it all actually happens. It's like it wasn't even real for a moment. We were just so excited and so happy. And it just, like I said, all the work we put in together, and all the long days, the hard days where it feels like it's just never ending. It's those the days like Sunday are what makes it all worth it, and we keep coming back and doing it more.
Yeah, and Jake, I mean, you had a really good career up until 2021 in terms of a lot of pace, a decent amount of success. Obviously, you had the Super Nats poles. I mean, pace has never been the issue, but when you look back now from 2025 to your younger self, what do you think you've evolved the most kind of in this return to the full-time seat on the karting scene? And kind of where have you kind of gained the most in terms of Jake Drew, the driver, compared to where you were 4 or 5 years ago?
I think I'm definitely, well, maybe not. I'd like to say I'm a bit more mature behind the wheel, but not always, maybe. But I do my best. But I think I'm probably a lot more analytical with what's going on with the go-kart, and with on the engine side, the chassis side, the tires, whatnot, and just trying to be as perfect as possible and have as good an understanding as I can. I think a lot of that comes from the car stuff I did as well, and always having to learn something new, and whether it was the more knowledge you have about what you're operating with, and the better you can probably be. So that definitely helps a lot, and I pay really close attention to what's going on with my car and whatnot. But that also, through all the coaching, there's things that you repeat to the drivers, and there's things that you're sharing information with that maybe you don't always are thinking about when you're driving and yourself. So I definitely feel myself now, like, or hear myself in my own head while I'm driving, like going over things that I'm preaching to my own drivers or teaching them. Like, you still got to follow those rules too. If I want them to change or be better, then I got to practice what I'm teaching too. And I think that goes a long way, and kind of helps everything slow down and just understand what I'm trying to accomplish when I'm out there in the go-kart.
Yeah, so you mentioned the kind of taking the analytical side of the car paddock and the car experience that you had back into the karting seat, and that being kind of one of the biggest developments you had. And I feel like you have a really unique story in the sense that, we hear all the time from 14, 15, 16-year-old kids about the whole karts to cars transition. Oh, we'll talk more about this karts to cars, like what does it take, all this and all that. But the flip side is when you've been in cars for multiple years. You've been not just in cars, but racing oval cars, racing in the truck series, racing in ARCA, where it's kind of a completely different paddock environment. It's a completely different car environment. What sort of lessons have you learned, both inside and outside of the seat, from the cars? And ultimately, do you think that it's helped your karting is in terms of it being a net positive, in comparison to maybe some of the other avenues you could have taken over the last few years?
Um, yeah, I mean, for sure, it's helped, right? Like, I talked about, learning new things and whatnot. I kind of felt like at the end of my like sort of main karting career at the time, like I was just kind of going through the motions sometimes, like wasn't really, super, like I said, analytical with what I was doing. I could just, I'd go to cow speed 3 days a week sometimes it felt like, and it's just out there like muscle memory. You're not really paying attention to everything that's going on with the go-kart. You can just kind of adapt and change whatnot. But then once you get into the car stuff, it's all new, right? So you're paying attention to every little tiny nuances of what's going on, and just all the little fine details. So then you come back to the karting and you apply that and you start to notice little things that go on, and um, you kind of see that when you're watching the other drivers or whatnot, and maybe pay attention to things that sometimes get looked over. But um, also too, just the way you carry yourself through the paddock. I feel like I probably didn't always do that the best when I was younger, and now I try to you know, be a little bit quieter sometimes when I need to be, and just be professional and try to be an example for some of our younger kids that are under our tent, and kind of show them some of the steps that it takes, or the attitude you need to carry to, you know, some of these people are looking for support, looking for help or whatever. It's like, okay, well, really need to carry yourself the right way and try to do the best you can. And like I said, I'm at fault. I didn't always do the best job of that, and I try to do a much better job of it now. So from the personal side to the driving side, there's tons of things that I was able to take away from my car career, and um, looking to apply that as much as I can and share as many stories as I can and experiences with all the drivers I work with.
I want to talk a little bit on the personal side as well, right? You were, living out in North Carolina, and then this year you just made the move back to California. How was that? Because you go out there, I feel like, a kid with a dream, want to be in NASCAR one day, and it obviously doesn't work out. But, talk to me about the decision of coming back to California, of moving back, what that was kind of like from your shoes.
I mean, it's probably one of the hardest decisions I've had to make. I mean, um, I felt like I was always in a pretty tough situation. I always felt like I was one phone call away, for one conversation away from something big in my car career. And um, at some point, you kind of just got to take a step back and look at it as a whole. And um, I felt like it was time to do that. And it was already getting, the year had already started. I didn't make the move back till March. I still went through, kind of January, February, trying to hold out and see if there was anything that was going to be coming, or what opportunities I could maybe have in North Carolina. Um, but also too, like, being away from family and friends and everything was getting kind of hard, and um, felt like the best decision was just to come back and kind of reset. And Tony always, had the door open for me, and um, back to just making a hard decision. It's just, um, sorry, kind of losing it here. It's, it was tough for 100%. I mean, that's as simple as it gets. Um, I wanted to do everything I could to make it work, and um, just kind of fell short of that. And happy that I can come back to karting and do something as good as I am now, and be proud of what I'm doing. But um, yeah, that's sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, like, looking back at the accomplishment you had this past weekend, like, what would you tell yourself back in March, right? Like, what is one thing that, if you are now, 3 months down the line, like, what is something that you're going to tell that you would tell Jake back in March?
It's all gonna be all right. Everything's got its way of working itself out. Everybody's lives go different. Not everything goes to plan, not everything goes the way you want it, but just always try to be happy with where you're at too. Um, I felt like I did a decent job throughout my car stuff too, like, just always kind of taking a step back from where I was and enjoying that moment as a whole, because I never knew when that next opportunity, or sometimes I didn't know when that next opportunity was going to come, or when it would end and whatnot. So um, to be fast forward to where we are now, talking to myself a couple months ago, just be happy with what's going on, be ready for it, take everything as it comes, and just accept what you got and do the best that you can in every situation you're in.
And I guess I'm gonna take it a step further than Caleb did. Is we finally got Alex back from the greatest storm in the history of history
Dude,
in Atlanta.
Atlanta.
I was gonna say I heard the thunder in the background at one point.
I was gonna
and
ask if I could hear it.
I thought at first there was a big storm behind me. And then I like
No.
thought about it. I was like, wait a
Dude,
second.
because I went back and I watched the stream. When my screen went black, It was like the loudest thunder you've ever heard in your entire life, and just power out. Rip Simon. For those who understand how PCs work, I really don't that much, but I do understand that when your PC bricks, that's not a good thing. And his PC's bricked, so that basically means that like it is not functioning, and that is a very expensive fix. So, anyways, back to what we were talking about, but
Yeah.
I feel really bad for Simon.
Man, highly unfortunate. Hits keep on coming. But no, I was gonna say, Jake, Caleb talked about what would you tell yourself 3 months ago. I'm really curious what you would tell yourself a few years ago, like younger Jake Drew, pre-car stuff, pre-national level karting. Like, what's the biggest thing you've learned from this whole journey?
I don't think. I think it's really close to the same, right? Like I said, just being happy with where you're at, trusting where you're at, enjoying every moment as much as you can, and taking it all in. Um, always sometimes with I see it a lot in karting too, and it was something my dad always told me as a kid. Like, there's always going to be there's always another go-kart race. There's always something coming, right? And you feel like sometimes you get stuck in this zone of you're just always preparing for the next thing, going through the motions, and um, sometimes it's okay to miss a race here or miss that, and just really enjoy the situation that you're in, and take it for what it's worth, and take everything that you can out of it, and every positive you can. And even when things don't go your way, you just got to take what that is, and learn from it, or try to adjust, and be better prepared for whatever the next situation is. And um, I think 5, 6 years ago, me, not knowing everything that's gone on, I think he would be thrilled. I don't think there's anything to frown upon or shy away from in what I was able to accomplish. I feel like I was able to accomplish way more than what was probably available, and through meeting great people, I was able to do really cool things, and um, made memories that I'm going to carry with me forever, and I'm super proud of that. And um, 5, 6 years ago, there's probably not much I really could have changed that would have brought me to a different outcome. And to me, that's okay, because, like I said, I'm super happy with what I was able to do. And if I could go back and do it all over again, I would. And um, but if I couldn't, I'm totally okay with where I'm at now, and looking forward to whatever's coming next. But not too much enjoying. I'm gonna enjoy this week first, and then
There you
before we
go.
go racing
I
again
was
and
gonna say,
back behind the computer coaching.
I was about to ask, are we gonna throw a cart together for a Tri-C this weekend?
No, that was a fluke last time.
No, man. No, but I think like you mentioned, ultimately, everything's worked out. You're a national race winner. You have a host of kids that you've coached that I would say have made amazing progress. I mean, how's I know you talked about it being a kind of cherry on top to have Keegan in second, but working with that kid for years and seeing kind of the ups and downs for him, especially last year being his first senior year, how special was it to have a weekend where not only did you guys finish 1-2 in the final, but it felt like every heat race, every chance you guys got to run up front, he was right there lockstep with you fighting for the lead.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly special. And there was a moment in time where he was in the lead and kind of had a bit of a gap, and I'm like, I'm really not all too sure I'm going to be able to run him back down. I'm going to do the best I can, but I really know what he's capable of nowadays. And um, definitely makes me nervous sometimes. You look back and you see a similar cart to yours, you know who it is, and um, gives you pumps the heart rate up a little bit. But I think it was really cool to go back and watch the race, watch the heat race, watch the final where we were together. And I think a lot of that comes from just we know each other so well, so many practice days, or so many days of us working together, coaching drivers. We know each other like the back of our hand, and know what every move is. We can anticipate what's going to be coming. So it was really cool to see that in motion in a real life situation, a real race situation, where we're not just working with our drivers. And um, I know he got me at a pro kart race earlier this year, but I felt
Mhm.
like I kind of threw that one away. So I'm gonna keep pushing him. But no, I hope that I don't want to get beat by him too many more times, but I know those days are coming soon.
I want to ask you real quick. Obviously, like I missed like 20 minutes because the lag. But right after you won, came in the scales, and before we got the camera on you, before we got the interview, you said, you know, I you kind of spoke to me a little bit about, I feel like people don't understand, like, I haven't done a lot of national racing in my career up until like the last couple of years when you've been on the main stage, right? But like, what do you think, unless maybe that is, what do you think the biggest like misconception is about Jake Drew? Like that people maybe do not know or think differently about than what's actually the truth.
Yeah, I think at least on the karting side, I think that's one of them. Like, we see it's almost normal now that in the karting world that it's all these people that, um, I feel like I hear a lot of stories or, parents talking about their kids, oh, they got to go to all these big ginormous races, big go-kart races because they got to show themselves and do the best they can and whatnot. And um, I feel like you can acquire all the skills needed still running regional stuff at home. Yeah, I ran a Super Nats here or a Pro Tour race there, but a couple one-offs throughout, probably from 15, 16 on. But I was never really running like the full series. And you know, in all the conversations I had through my card career, nobody went, "Hey, where did you finish that Pro Tour race in Tag Junior 3 years ago?" Like they didn't know that. It was all about who you were that day, what you were doing, and what you were capable of. And um, so I think that's a pretty big misconception. I talked to, some of the junior drivers I coach and whatnot, and um, they kind of bring stuff up about running these big races, and I tell them that I've probably run less pro tour races than you have, and they look at me like I have two heads. That there's, how did you make it to cars? How did you do all these things? It's just everybody has these different paths that not everything has to go one certain way. Um, so I think that's probably the biggest thing for sure is just my career's probably been a little bit different than some of most, and um, I was able to make the most of it, I think, for the time being and accomplish some really good, cool things.
So then with that, like with your experiences doing club, doing regional, doing a lot of national stuff now, especially like what's your viewpoint on the landscape of karting right now?
Uh, I think I feel like it's pretty healthy. I go to the races in California. I go to K1. We have, Tri-C, Pro Kart. We have big numbers. There's plenty of talent, plenty of drivers always there. Um, and then we go across the country. There's always big fields. So, um, I feel like the sport's in a pretty healthy spot, and I feel like you guys are doing a really good job with the kart chaser thing and putting a lot more eyes on it. And um, I feel like everywhere I go, there's always a good conversation about karting, and um, I think it's as competitive as it's ever been, if not always getting more competitive, just with fine tuning everything. And um, I definitely think that it's good on all areas, even down to even the situation I'm in when I'm not driving, being behind the computer, working with the drivers. Um, there's an army that it takes of people to make all this work, and I feel like it's really good. It keeps everybody connected. There's a lot of people involved, and the more people involved, the more people are talking, the more things are getting talked about, um, the more word gets spread around of whether the sport of karting or good talks about people. It all works hand in hand. It all works good together, and I think the sport's just going to keep continuing to grow and um, probably see some big things and cool things over the next few years that we're all probably excited to see.
Absolutely. And you moved to Mooresville a couple years ago. We talked about that. For you, you kind of got to go work and even a couple times race at the Trackhouse Club races. For me, I've always been on the East Coast, and then going to see Tri-C and Pro Kart this year was the first time out on the West Coast. I'm curious to hear from the opposite perspective from your end. How different do you feel like the landscape is, not just in karting, but in racing in general on the East Coast compared to the West Coast?
Um, I'd say from a competitive level, it's pretty similar. I feel like K1 has a lot of excitement around it right now. It brings a lot of attention, and a lot of people are drawn to come race there. At any given event, just because they're just enjoying the venue right now. And so from a competition side, I think it's all very similar. Um, as far as like the weekend goes, I felt like there was a bit of difference there. I felt like on the East Coast, they seem to do like a lot more like double header style races where everything's a little bit more fast paced, probably less practice. Where it almost feels like all of our weekends at K1 is like this long, drawn out weekend of 4 or 5 days, but um, really allows us to really, dial in what's going on with the video, the data, the carts, the gearing, everything. Um, we're all able to really fine tune everything that's going on, and it really pulls the competition close together for all the teams. Um, so I think there's some good and bad on both sides. Sometimes, I feel like the weekends need to be a little bit faster paced and not have so much practice, but um, also too, when we're at a more club or regional level, that's when we're there to learn, right? And so I feel like that makes a bit more sense too. Um, allowing the drivers to be able to develop through the weekend and work off their teammates or the coach or whatnot, and try to learn as much they can and have as much valuable as weekend as they can.
Yeah, and have you seen kind of a difference between nowadays with K1 as opposed to 3 or 4 years ago when it was kind of in the works around the same time that Cal Speed kind of died off, or has it kind of been the club scene being similar?
Um, I feel like the club scene is bigger right now because it's more central to one spot. Before, like you mentioned, we had Cal Speed, we had Adams, we had there was a couple tracks that everyone just kind of wanted to spread around and be at. Um, but definitely now everything's a lot more central to one location, and everybody just wants to be there. And I feel like whether it's a Tri-C race or a Pro Kart race, yeah, I almost feel like the competition level is exactly the same. It's all the same people. It's just it's a different tire compound, a different, maybe less intense of a weekend. Just we might feel like the stakes are a little bit higher at one than the other, but um, to me, it shouldn't make a difference. It's all the same people. You're all learning the same things. You're getting the same value out of it.
Caleb?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I was just kind of transitioning into now you're working in the shop. We were talking a little bit today. What do what does your day to day look like now? Right, working for Tony. Whether it's packing the trailer. What does that kind of look like for you now, Jake?
In my opinion, it must look like 1,000 miles an hour. I feel like we're always going as fast as we can, trying to get things done. Um, I have to give a shout out to Kyle Babita. We work hand in hand together. We're side by side every day too, trying to get things done. And um, I feel like, we had kind of had some things that we had to figure out early on, and, kind of make it as fluid as possible. But I feel like we have a pretty good system down right now. And, even some of the big races we go to, Kyle kind of hangs back and makes sure that everything's getting prepared for the next week. So today was a fairly easy day for sure. We're feeling pretty prepared for this weekend, already loaded up. But um, this past month was definitely tough between races at K1. We had Challenge of the Americas in Utah. We were shipping stuff out to Wisconsin. We had a couple people doing the Pro Kart race, and then Wisconsin this last weekend needed multiple carts for them, being prepared, everything like that. So last month was really hard.
You said what, like
Just
7 weeks straight, right? Something like that.
I don't know. I try not to count because it's just it'll hurt. Um, but no, I mean, it helps too. Like I think what comes to that too is that we're all between myself, Tony, Kyle, Alex, Brendan, some of our mechanics. We're all together so much. It's all kind of like a family. And we have a good time together. So it doesn't matter how many weeks we go on. We're always having a good time and keeping each other happy. And it really works well. I think if anyone was not having a good time, they probably wouldn't be able to do it, or they wouldn't come back. And um, we all definitely help each other out when we can. But um, for sure, after the last month and a half or so, this month is looking very nice, and we'll be all refreshed and ready to hit the ground running at Newcastle for Pro Tour.
I know Tony's a big watch guy. I heard you picked one up this weekend. Talk a little bit about
I don't know if I want to talk about it yet. I'm still probably hurting out a little bit, but no.
that.
Very special watch that he played a big role in. Found it on Facebook Marketplace, and it caught his eye, and he's very familiar with it for sure. So when he showed it to me, it was the story behind it was real special, and I knew it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. So had to make the purchase. Probably didn't need to, but it'll be cool years down the road.
Yeah, well, we're getting close to the end of our segment here with you, Jake. The floor is all yours. Talk about whatever you want, what you got coming up, what you got coming up with Formula Works as well.
Yeah, just want to say thanks first of all to you guys and everybody that's involved with the Kart Chaser stuff. Um, hopefully you guys get enough thanks, but it's really cool what you guys do for the sport and definitely branching out. I see it feels like there's an announcement all the time of a new series that you guys are going to and just putting eyes on every corner of the country for karting, and that really helps everybody as a whole. And want to say thanks to Tony Siragusa, Formula Works, Gary Carlton, GFC, and everybody that's involved in both those awesome programs. Give me not just the opportunity to race, but the opportunity to work and be part of the something that's really cool, I feel, and not always just part of the standard. So really thankful to that. I know I probably got a lot of family watching right now, so want to say hi to them. I know I've been real busy the last few years and haven't been able to see them as much, but um, really appreciate everybody that follows along everything that I do and always send me texts and messages and keep me feeling supported and keeping a close eye on everything. Um, and thanks to all the kids I get to work with, all of our drivers, all the parents that put their trust in me and allow me to work with their great kids. And it's really cool to see all the great things that come out of them as they learn and progress through the sport. And always looking forward to what's coming next. And finally, let's put our heads down for Pro Tour as a team. Looking forward to that. Try to have a good showing there. Feeling really good after this last weekend. Looking forward to the rest of the year being behind the seat a bit more.
Hey, there you go, Jake. We appreciate you for taking time out of your busy life and joining us here tonight. But thank you. It's been a pleasure, and like I said, we're all super stoked for you, man.
Appreciate that a lot. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a good time.
Yeah,
Thank
for
you,
sure,
Jake.
for us as well. Have a good night,
Thank
man.
you, Thank you,
You
Jake.
too.